Over the past decade, male modeling has had a shadow cast over it by one man and 5 syllables. Dare.
It's
Zoolander.
That's a really strange thought to think it was that long ago, the first one. It's a cult classic.
Hansel and Gretel became these iconic characters.
I loved it. I've seen it a number of times. It's one of those films you can watch again and again.
I was a big fan of the first one. There's nothing really like it.
Ben's character was so endearing and so ridiculous.
I thought it was one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
It's got such a distinct voice. That's the charm about it.
I was like, this guy's talking to me.
I thought the first film was hilarious.
It's one of those movies that you could pick up at any time and laugh out loud.
The gasoline fight is something that everybody talks about.
The walk-offs, Blue Steel, the looks. There are just parts of that movie that I only have to think of, and I'm happy for the rest of my day.
It's a very different kind of comedy. It's a classic.
We really wanted to make a sequel when the movie first came out, but nobody went to the movie, so nobody wanted to make the sequel.
It wasn't like the first one did gangbusters at the box office. There was the shadow of 9/11 hanging over the opening.
The movie, which came out a few weeks after 9/11, 2001, I think it just came out too close to a time where people didn't want to be silly.
I remember Ben was having to go promote it, and he was like, I don't even know how to promote this, and didn't do well at the box office. But in a weird way, it allowed for people to discover it in a different way.
It happened at a time where we really needed to laugh. And it sort of resonated with people in that kind of way. And then there was this sort of undercurrent of people passing it along.
Most people saw it on DVD a year after the release. Everyone got to feel like it was their own special discovery.
What is this?
A center for ants?
How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
I think people just connected with his character, and people love making fun of things that take themselves very seriously. And I think Zoolander hit that dead on. It just became embedded in our culture.
It's something that you love, but you never imagined that there are so many people that love with you the same film.
I mean, I knew that Zoolander had so many fans, but I didn't know that it was as big as, people that you don't expect, that they would know that movie. And they know all the lines, they've seen it also many, many times.
Did you find the files?
I don't even know what they look. What do they look like?
They're in the computer.
They're in the computer?
We have this thing in my family where we look at each other, it's like,
I guess you can dare lick my balls, Capitan.
a lot of times comedies don't necessarily translate to other cultures.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
From traveling and working in Europe and South America, there just seems to be a real cult following.
I guess pick it up, go back, keep going, and action.
Hey, Derek, back on top, man. I have received more love for playing myself for 5 minutes than 40 years of character work, which is kind of encouraging and absolutely tragic in other ways.
I was sitting on the train. 2 college-type guys get on the train doing the foamy latte scene.
Are you not aware that I get farty and bloated with a foamy latte?
My mistake, Shacklebib.
I'm hearing the whole thing right above my head. They do it from the beginning to the end, all the facial movements, and then they just laugh. It was great. That was one of those moments where I was just like, well, that was pretty neat, actually. That was pretty neat.
Let me show you Derek!
We waited a few years, and strangely, Zoolander just remained in the consciousness on some level with the fans of the movie.
Over the years, running into Ben and talking to Ben, that, you know, they'd be kind of thinking of ideas and talking about, yeah, we might do a Zoolander sequel.
Around 2010, we started to work on it again, and that's when Justin Theroux and I sat down with John Hamburg and worked on a new story. It's 15 years later. We had to take that into account. What have Derek and Hansel been doing? You know, when we first wrote the first script, it was 4 years later. Then we wrote the second script, it was, 9 years later. And then all of a sudden it was 15 years later. So every time it was like, oh, no, now Derek's son is 14. Like the last draft, he was 8. That changes the story a lot, you know? So it was finally like, we gotta make this movie soon or Derek Jr. is gonna be 40.
So I just pictured this shot being like we're tracking with her, we're on with her on this crazy rig.
You know, when something is successful, there's always a pressure to get a sequel out in the next 2 years, which often leads to very half-baked ideas, you know, a rush to sort of, you know, capitalize on something. So the gestation period of this movie, it being 15 years, I think was in the end a fantastic thing because we were really able to grind the script for a long time and make it as good as possible.
The script got to a place finally, the appetite for the movie, the timing, a lot of circumstances converged to make this the time to bring it to life.
I watched the first movie again just to try to, you know, make sure I was doing it right because it had been so long ago. And then, you know, we did some camera tests. It was pretty surreal. And I was laughing my ass off from the beginning. They're like, okay, this is going to be great.
There was no way we were gonna do it without everyone from the first one. You know, no one's gonna wanna go see Zoolander without Derek. No one's gonna wanna see it without Mugatu.
Strange at first to kind of get back into character, into the outfits. But it's amazing how you just start getting into it, and next thing you know, you're back into performing Mugatu.
We have this over here, an all-you-can-eat lard bar. Oh, squirt piggy.
And then we knew there's so much new talent that we could tap.
I got a phone call from Ben, and he mentioned Zoolander, and then I said, Zoolander? Are you serious? Because this is the way we say it in Spanish. And I was really excited that he wanted to make me part of this, because I love the movie so much.
I was actually a big fan of the first Zoolander, and very proud that at one point I was mentioned.
Sting would be another person who's a hero. The music that he's created over the years, I don't really listen to it, but the fact that he's making that, I respect that.
So when I got the call from Ben, I had a suspicion that they were going to refer to that, and I was right.
I'd heard a rumor that this was being resurrected, and I said, look, Ben, I'm a huge fan. I'd wipe the frame, literally just clean it between takes if you want, or just walk across it, whatever. I really want to be a part of this, you know.
You're Derek Zoolander. You stopped a Chinese throwing star in midair with a look.
Do one more? You know, you don't want to let down the fans of the first movie. That's the biggest thing. And so it was really just trying to make a movie that would live up to the expectation of the people who really love the first one.
That's not easy, you know, to just try to figure out what do we bring back from the first one, you know, and yet this is an opportunity to create brand new characters and brand new storylines.
Alexandria Itas. They say she doesn't walk, she just floats.
Ben has done just a great job with picking up where we left off from the first movie. And I think it's a much bigger story and scope than the first one.
Derek Zoolander is bigger than ever. I mean, just super funny and super ridiculous and everything you loved about the first movie, but I think just even better.
It's everything you knew of them and much more. It's just a richer tapestry.
I think it'll be seen as a companion piece. I don't think people will separate them. I think it flows from one to the other very well in terms of its ludicrousness.
It's been pretty exciting to be part of its rebirth.
It's fun to be part of. I mean, it's clear that there's legacy involved in being part of this.
It's been a crazy process because I thought we'd never do it. I thought it actually would never happen. So it's been a long time in the making, yeah.